Hey, it's Heather, and welcome to another adventure in gardening. Today, we're going to talk about tomatoes, all about tomatoes. Now, if you love tomatoes, like I love tomatoes, then you might want to run and get a piece of paper because I'm going to be talking about 30 different varieties of tomatoes that I grow. Now I know it's kind of late in the season for me to be talking about this, right? But it could help you in your decision making for next year for purchasing seeds, or it can help you in purchasing your tomato plants this year. Now I know I'm a little off center here, but the reason for that is because I'm gonna try to put pictures of all the tomatoes I'm gonna be talking about right here. First, let me give you a little background on myself. So gardening is my lifelong passion, and it is just so rewarding, and I do it every day, all year long. Tomato plant growing, now that's a sport. Okay, my sister and I, we are competitive when it comes to growing tomato plants, and we're always trying something new. Now I own a very small business where I grow and sell organically grown, heirloom and open pollinated tomato plants. I don't ship, so if you live in southeastern Connecticut and you're watching this right now, you can go to cheekytomatoes.com. And we have plenty of tomato plants left. And so the thing about, so open pollinated tomato plants, that means that if you save the tomato plant seeds, you're going to get the same tomato plant from those seeds. You're not going to get that with a hybrid tomato. So a hybrid would be something you would find in a garden center, most likely, a Big Boy or Better Boy or one of the boys, right? So that is the difference between open pollinated and hybrid. Now an heirloom tomato plant is a tomato plant that's been around for a really long time, and it has been true to seed all that time. Now, can they cross-pollinate in the garden and you kind of get something a little bit different, because bees, travel from plant to plant. So here's the answer, maybe. Okay, so it might happen. They say it really shouldn't happen, but that it can happen sometimes. So what I do as a tomato plant grower is I isolate the flowers and I hand pollinate them so that I can make sure that the plants that I offer to people are true to the parent plant. So now there are different types of tomato plants. There are indeterminate, and there's determinate, and there's semi-determinate. Okay, indeterminate means I'm gonna grow forever. I'm gonna grow and grow and grow and grow and grow until the frost hits me, and then I'm done. Determinate means you're gonna have one big bumper crop, okay, and they're kind of all gonna ripen at the same time, and then we're done. All right, determinate plants get to a determined height, indeterminate and undetermined height. Okay, then there's semi-determinate. So semi-determinate means that we're going to get to a determined height, sort of, and then we're going to grow a little bit more. Not outrageously like an indeterminate. I've had people tell me they've had to, pin their indeterminate tomatoes to the sides of their house. But they're going to have one big bumper crop, and then they're still going to produce here and there and there throughout the rest of the season. Okay, so that's it. Now people will automatically say, well, I want the indeterminate kind because I want them to grow and grow and produce and produce. Yes, you have to be prepared to stake them up. I have run into a group of people selling tomato plants that I didn't know there were that many out there, and those are people who want to grow their tomato plants in containers. So I had to seek out heirloom container plant, an open pollinated container plant, tomato plants. And so can you grow an indeterminate plant in a pot? Yes, it's hard, it's work, okay? Because so you've got your pot and you've got your plant that's going to grow and live forever, and you've got an 8-foot stake, and then the tomato plant says ha ha ha. And so one way to kind of do a workaround on that is, because it can be done, is you're going to put a bamboo teepee on the outside of your indeterminate potted tomato plant, and you're going to stick it in the ground on the outside, not in the pot, in the ground, because you need that stability. So that will help. So we're going to start right off the bat with container tomato plants that I have been growing for a few years, and that people seem to really like them. So let's see, where are we? Oh, right here. So we're going to start with the tiniest ones of all right? This is called orange hat tomato plant, okay? Now this is not an heirloom, it is open pollinated, and it doesn't get much taller than what you see. It's going to get really, really wide. It's super early. There are some that already have the tomatoes on them. Super early. They are yellow. They go the whole season. I love this and now people are going to be like, oh, that's not big enough for me. Oh my gosh. If you had like 6 of these, you would have tomatoes every single day. So the thing about this tomato plant is it's wonderful with ornamentals. So you could do like your geraniums and your petunias and throw one of these guys in there. So I love orange hat for that. By the way, I am not looking any of these tomato plants up. I'm not going to give you the hard facts that you can find online, because you can find them online. I'm going to tell you about them, what I think about them, and because I've been growing them. So next, that's a little bit taller, this is red robin. And red robin is a micro tomato plant, but it gets taller than orange hat. It gets to, they say 12 inches, I say 24. I actually brought this one in at the end of the season last year, and I grew it. I continued to grow. So I put it in a pot, and then I brought it in the fall, and I had tomatoes through Christmas. So this is a red cherry tomato, and it does really well. You could put it in a hanging basket. You could put the red robin and the orange hat together. Super cute. They would look really nice together. This guy gets a little bit taller, so I love those two. Next on the list, I remember growing this when it was a new heirloom. I don't know, sometime in the 90s, I guess. A silver fir. Now, silver fir is an indeterminate. I say indeterminate, I had it the entire season last year. This is super pretty. This is a medium-sized tomato that always ends up with those yellow shoulders, I will tell you that. It produced and produced. It really produced. So they could be staked up with a bamboo stake, but you really have to fasten the whole thing in it because it was so heavy with tomatoes last year. So it's pretty, it's a great container tomato plant, and it produces a lot of tomatoes. So next on my list for container plants is Principe Borghese. Now Principe Borghese is, I'm a fan of this guy. He is semi-determinate, so he is going to have that one big crop and then continue to produce after that. This is a red cherry tomato that's got a little point on the tip of it, and prolific. This is great for sun-dried tomatoes. Many people love to eat them just as regular cherry tomatoes. I do not, because I have so many other cherry tomatoes, so I would rather take this guy, stick them in the freezer, and then have sauce in the wintertime or have ketchup in the wintertime. I love Principe Borghese. You can put them in a container, you can put them in the ground. It's a great tomato plant. So where shall we go from there? I guess we're going to go with cherry tomatoes. So those, oh no, I have one more container plant, and that is Alaskan Fancy. Oh no, I had two more. Oh, I'm almost sold out of one of them. All right, let me talk about the one I'm almost sold out. It's called Early Wonder. It is a potato leafed, and I have a beautiful picture of it. I know that I do. Editing Heather, I hope you find that one. So Early Wonder is a potato leafed determinate tomato plant that you can stake with just a bamboo stake. Really large size, juicy slicing tomatoes. It's a really good one. I knew my pile was too small. So next is Alaskan Fancy. Alaskan Fancy is a determinate, great for containers. Yes, you can eat them fresh. I like to use them as paste. They're paste tomatoes, they really are. Round, red, prolific. I think I've planted 6 of them behind you. in a row because I love this plant so much, and you can see that it's already flowering there. So that is a container tomato and a paste tomato, which brings us to the paste tomatoes. Now I grow 2 paste tomatoes, and I'm getting ready to not grow them for sale anymore. Not too many people are interested in paste tomatoes. The canning jars are scarce on the shelves, right? So I'm not sure. People, can your tomatoes. All right, so I have 2 that I grow and love. I've got black, so here's what I have to say. They are wimpy in a pot. They've always been wimpy in a pot. I have black icicle and Myona. And black icicle, my son-in-law loves to eat these sliced because they're juicy. They're dark. They're like purpley brown black color on the outside and on the inside. And so when I make sauce, it looks really rich. So I love black icicle. It is your traditional plum-shaped paste tomato, as well as Myona that is just a red paste tomato. So those are my 2 favorite, and I will continue to grow them even if I don't have them for sale to the public. But they're the top of my list. I like them better than much better than like Roma, or yeah. And these are just as prolific. They really are. So now let's see. All right, now we're going to talk about cherry tomatoes. Now, I love cherry tomatoes. I love kids that come into the garden, and way more when they leave, okay? I'm talking about my nephew Andy. No, and lots of kids, they really they love the cherry tomatoes. Why not grow lots of cherry tomatoes and create that love for kids of fresh garden vegetables that really, tomatoes are like that entry vegetable, right? So let's start with Barry's Crazy Cherry. Barry's Crazy Cherry is open pollinated, and you can see that it already has blooms on it. This is one of Brad Gates', these are the new heirlooms. They're not, you have to have a plant stable for so many years or around for so many years before it's considered an heirloom. This is one of those new heirlooms, but I love this tomato. This is a yellow, pale yellow cherry tomato plant that gets these branches on it that I don't know, and I'm not exaggerating. There'll be like 30, 40 little cherry tomatoes on a branch. All right, so I like this one, and I need to find, yes, this one right here. So I grow 2 that are like that. So they have a branch, and then they'll have like this explosion of cherry tomatoes on the end. So it's Barry's Crazy Cherry and Ildy. Now, here's the difference, because this is pale yellow and this is like a bright yellow. This is a fruity juice. When I say the word watery, I don't mean flavorless, but it's more, there's a lot more, yeah, anyway, so there's a lot more moisture, or I don't even know what to say. Ildy is sweet, okay? It's a sweeter one. Not the sweetest one that I have, but it is sweeter. This is fruity, and this one's just a sweet one, but they kind of grow the same. So cool, right? I love these. I love them all, actually. Okay, so next on the list, and I'm not doing this alphabetical. This is called pink vernissage. Now, pink vernissage, is it at the top of my list for my most favorite tomatoes? Well, I grow it. I grow it because it is pretty. I'm not even kidding. It looks like a little baby watermelon. It's so pretty. And I like to make a pretty salad, so I like to have different colored cherry tomatoes to do that. It is a drier cherry tomato, okay? That's what I have to say, but it's pretty. It looks like a little watermelon. And next, oh, this was my favorite tomato plant of 2020. I have a woodchuck that's been visiting. I think I hear him. All right, so this was my favorite cherry tomato plant of 2020. This is called Rosella. Now, Rosella is a pink, rosy colored cherry tomato that is sweet. I don't know if I should get up and check it out. I don't want anything sneaking up on me. Okay, so Rosella is a sweet, rosy cherry tomato. Okay, kind of purpley pink, rosy colored. It has green shoulders, but it's not, so sometimes when you have a tomato plant that has different color shoulders, it's kind of like that tough skinned. It is not. It is thin skinned, it's super juicy, great for fresh eating. I just love this, and in salads. Okay, so next on my list is a cherry tomato plant called Mrs. Barton. So here's how I got Mrs. Barton. Because this, you may already grow this, and you may grow it under a different name altogether. This was a cherry tomato plant that my daughter's piano teacher grew, and she never planted any of them. They just came back every single year, and she never staked any of them, and she made her sauce with this cherry tomato plant. It is a cherry tomato that has a big tomato flavor to it, and it's prolific. Like, I can't say enough about this. They don't crack. It's red. It's a red cherry tomato, and it's smooth, and it just tastes like a full-size tomato. So I love Mrs. Barton. That was her name, by the way. That is her name. Her name is Pearl Barton. Okay, chocolate pear. Chocolate pear is a reddish brown, pear-shaped cherry tomato. Great tomato flavor, very prolific. It's a nice one. Blueberries. Blueberries, oh, that's not supposed to be there. Blueberries is another one of those open pollinated new heirlooms, because there is an older blueberry that I have had for years. It's different from this one. This one is a little bit larger cherry tomato, and it's purpley blue, and it gets red. It gets some red on the bottom when it's almost ripe. Everybody loves this. It is a pretty tomato plant, and it's very prolific. So there's blueberries. Hartman's Yellow Goose. This is the tomato plant that I probably won't be offering next year. This is a yellow, large cherry tomato. This is one that I grow because, again, it looks great in salad. It's slightly sweet, and you definitely have to have them because they're large. They're really large cherry tomato plants. Prolific. It's been around. It's an heirloom. It's been around for a really long time. Isis Candy. Isis Candy is probably the sweetest cherry tomato that I grow. It gets very tall, very quick, and it produces a lot of cherry tomatoes. They are yellow and orange. They're kind of a yellowy orange, kind of marbled color to them. So sweet and very pretty. Yellow pear, new to me this year. I wanted to carry a low acid tomato just for people who ask for it. So this is kind of a trial for me. So I'm going to be growing yellow pear. So it's a traditional yellow pear-shaped cherry tomato. Okay, so let's go on to the medium tomato plants. So this is chocolate chestnut tomato. This is one of those new heirloom plants. It's really not an heirloom, it's an open pollinated plant. It's a medium size, dark, purpley black. It's super, super pretty. And it's prolific. They're juicy, they're smooth, they're thin-skinned, chocolate chestnut. Carbon. Carbon is one that I've grown for a few years. It's kind of purpley pink. It is medium. It's even on the inside it's purpley pink. And again, it's smooth and very prolific. And I got a couple like this, and they're all different. They all taste different, but this is a really pretty one. And the other one is Cherokee Purple that is sort of similar to Carbon. This is Cherokee Purple. And these are bigger, and these are almost sort of like heart-shaped a little bit, or a little bit oval. Cherokee Purple tends to be an earlier tomato, and they're medium, and there's lots and lots of them, and they're purple and sort of pretty. Sort of people kind of know Cherokee Purple by now, so it's a nice one. Here's the tomato plant nobody's buying. This is Brad's Atomic Grape. Again, open pollinated, and got dirt on my forehead. This is a multicolor, very fruity tomato. This is great for making salsa, okay? They're kind of oval shaped, medium, lots of them. They are so pretty. I think the catalog, the seed catalog, called them psychedelic, you know, because they are so pretty. But if you're looking for something different to grow, Brad's Atomic Grape is the one. Here's purple pear. Purple pear is different from chocolate pear because chocolate pear is a cherry tomato and purple pear is an oval, kind of a purpley colored tomato. Now, I love this one for whole tomato canning. They're super easy to slip out of the skins and stuff into your jars and process them. And there's lots of them. So this is purple pear. Stupus. Stupus is a Czechoslovakian potato-leafed indeterminate tomato plant, larger than a cherry, not quite a medium-sized tomato. I love this tomato. It doesn't mind the cooler weather in the fall. It keeps producing. The tomatoes really don't lose their flavor when the weather gets cool. And so I love Stupus for that. Okay, on to the big guys. Oh, wait. Green zebra. I forgot to talk about green zebra. Green zebra is new to me this year. And the reason I grew green zebra, well, it's pretty. Okay. I'm interested to see what the flavor is like on it, and I want to use it for pickled tomatoes. So I want to preserve the pickled tomatoes. So that is green zebra. So the big boys. The big boys are going to be called beefsteak style tomatoes. Okay. So leading the pack is the classic beefsteak. This is an heirloom beefsteak tomato. So it's called classic beefsteak. It kind of has that a little bit of an accordion thing going on. Huge, huge, beautiful tomatoes. These are your slicing tomatoes. Very flavorful. Kind of people, you know, compare a lot of things to the classic beefsteak. So I've got that guy. And then I've got orange strawberry. Now, orange strawberry is a heart-shaped beefsteak style tomato that I just love this. And I'm not a real big fan of the low acid yellow tomatoes, but I love this one. It's fruity and it's got good flavor, and I add it to I'll add it to the ketchup when I make ketchup. I like to you know, make that salad with all the different colors, the purple and the yellow and the red. So this is a good one to have. And it's also very prolific. Wood's Famous Brimmer. Now, Wood's Famous Brimmer is an heirloom. And now I don't want to speak ill of this tomato plant, but I'm going to tell it like it is. I love this tomato plant, and I will continue to grow it because it is prolific. And it bears when I need to have those tomatoes, when I'm canning, when I need the extra for sauce. It is thin-skinned. It is a watery tomato, and it helps things go further, okay? Now, as far as flavor goes, I've got another favorite I'm going to show you. But Wood's Famous Brimmer, it's a beauty, and there's lots of them. So the favorite that I have, I didn't bring it, but I'll show a picture. Okay, it's called Pantano Romanesco. It is a large red beefsteak style tomato. Okay, huge, really big, really smooth, like picture perfect smooth, all very uniform. The flavor is out of this world. I cannot say enough nice things about Pantano Romanesco, and it's a great plant too. New to me this year is, because I wanted to try something different, this is Thorburns Terracotta. And this is supposed to be an earlier beefsteak style tomato, and it's gonna have gorgeous rich color. I will be reporting in and letting you know what I think of this. Last on my list are German pink and Brandywine. They are very similar. Now, I grow both of them, and you know, I love both of them. I think German pink has better flavor. People know Brandywine. Okay, now this is not, there are different Brandywines out there, so do your research on that. This is the heirloom pink Brandywine. It is beautiful and it is flavorful, and there are plenty of them. Kind of the same goes for German pink. You'll notice German pink already has a bloom on it, right? So I'm probably going to get these a little earlier than I'm going to have the Brandywine. So that is my selection of tomato plants that I have available and I grow. I also grow a lot of other tomato plants, and I'll be doing a video on that, so subscribe. I'll be doing a video on that. Some that I'm trying out, some that people just weren't interested and I just still grow them. Now, before we end this video, I want to go and show you how I stake my tomato plants, all right, because that is a big topic. Now, as far as those tomato cages go, if you're growing a determinate tomato plant, right on, go ahead and do it. If you're growing an indeterminate, I don't even know what to say. They're a little useless. So I'll show you how I stake my tomato plants. There's actually, I'm going to show you 2 ways that I'm doing it, and I'm going to show you a 3rd way that you could do, okay? So let's go take a look. Okay, so you don't ever need anything as fancy as what I have, but I have a tomato structure here. And so the bed is right here. This is where I grow the medium and the beefsteaks and the plums. So I fit about 40 tomatoes in this whole thing here. And I grow them on strings. So, and this works for me, okay? Not everybody is going to want to do this, but what happens is the tomato plant, I tie the string on the top of the structure here, and then I put the other end, I wrap it around the root, and then I plant the tomato. And as the tomato grows, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to wrap it all clockwise, and the tomato plant is going to stay like that. Believe it or not, it does. Now you got to make sure that you've got good string. Don't try to use last year's string because it gets very heavy. When you do this, you're going to trim off the suckers as the suckers come. And, oh, I got one with suckers that I can show you. Now, not everybody is willing to do that, and so sometimes, even myself, I have a hard time doing that, trimming off the suckers. When you trim off the suckers, you're going to end up with bigger tomatoes, but possibly fewer of them. Now, the suckers, you can see that I planted my tomato extra deep, okay? That's what you do. Now, mind you, I am in process of planting, so all of these tomato plants, the lower leaves are going to get removed because you can't have that. You can't have the tomato leaves touching the ground. So, in between a leaf and the stem come these little branches, and these are called suckers, and all you do is pinch them off, okay? Just like that. And I'll be trimming all of these leaves later. So I'm going to grow them on one center stalk, and sometimes I'll let another branch, you know, once the tomato plant gets a little taller, I'll let another branch go, but I've got to run another string for it. So that's how I stake the majority of my tomato plants. Okay, so another way that you could stake your tomato plants is you could use T-posts like this with this nice kind of sturdy fence. All right, now I do not grow tomatoes like this. I used to grow them like this, and it worked out very, very well because they are sturdy. All right, and all you do is you just attach your tomato plants to your fence. So this is another option. Okay, so this area right here is where I grow all of my cherry tomatoes. All right, now you'll notice that I plant them a lot closer together, and it's because I have no intention of stepping in the bed, and because of how I'm going to stake them. Now I've got 2 T-posts that you can see. Now I'll be continuing them every, 3 feet on down the road. And as the tomato plants grow, I will run string and I will weave them around the plants. So, and I'll show you with my hands, so that eventually the tomato plant will be in between, and like the string will be hugging it on both sides. So I'll weave on both sides all the way down. I hope that makes sense to you. And then as they grow, I continue to weave them. So you don't set it up the day that you plant them. It's just as they grow, you're weaving. So when they get a little taller, you're weaving up here. So you just got to keep up with that, and eventually you'll have like a wall of cherry tomatoes. But you can do it with the big guys too. Okay, here's some other facts about tomato plants that I want to share with you. Now, everybody's got their own way of doing things and their own kind of techniques, but I'm going to tell you what's worked for me over the years. I mentioned planting them deeper than they are in the pot. You got to strip all those leaves off the side of it. They are heavy feeders. You got to make sure that you keep up with feeding your tomato plants. I like a Spoma tomato tone, the organic. I also use bat guano for you know, high nitrogen or higher nitrogen. I use bone meal in the beds. I use wood ash in the beds. Banana peels, eggshells, you just got to keep on with the food throughout the season. Cracking. So if your tomato plants crack, now some are prone to cracking. Some are going to crack if they stay on the vine too long. Sometimes it's an influx in the water. Okay, you got to water regularly and even. Okay, if you don't water for, let's say you're not a good waterer, and then you get a deluge of rain, your tomato plants are going to, you know, like the Hulk, and they're going to split their skin. So, so there's that. Also, let's talk about pruning tomato plants. Some people prune, some people don't, and that's fine. But you should not prune your determinate tomato plants. So keep that in mind. You want to leave all the suckers on your determinate tomato plants. So thanks for joining me today to talk tomatoes. I mean, I could talk about tomatoes all day long. And sometimes I do. But there's so many different varieties, and it's fun, and you know, it's one of those vegetables that everybody can grow. But follow along with me throughout this season. I'm going to be updating you on the tomato plants that I talked about today and some of the new tomato plants that I'll be growing. So subscribe so we can stay in touch and you don't miss out on the next adventure in gardening. See you soon.